Welcome to the final episode on the series in which we focus on the developments that preceded Sri Lanka's monumental victory in the 1996 World Cup. And this episode, we like to title it A Phenomenon Beyond Numbers, a phenomenon called Little Kalu. There's a saying that numbers tell you a story, but sometimes numbers fail. Because if numbers could tell you the real story, we wouldn't have a place for emotion and the beauty of artistry in description of cricket. And this is one such prime example. In 1996, one of the most talked about points from the Benson and Hedges series was the emergence or the dominance of Romesh Kaluwitharana. His dominance was such that the renowned Tony Greig labelled him as Little Kalu, and Little Kalu became a word or probably a phrase which was ingrained in Sri Lankan cricket, and even to date, the term or the phrase Little Kalu evokes strong, positive emotions in the people who watched the game and fell in love with the game during the mid-90s. So why was Little Kalu special? When you look at the numbers, they wouldn't actually tell why Little Kalu was special, because simply if you look at the World Cup, his numbers wasn't great. And if you look at the Benson and Hedges series, they were decent, but not numbers which will make your eyes pop. So what was special about Kalu? And that's what we are going to look at. And it's not about numbers, it's not about technique, it's not about anything, but it's about the context and the sheer monumental magnitude of what Kalu achieved. And you had to watch it to believe that impossible was nothing.
As you correctly asked, Romesh Kaluwitharana was an integral part of Sri Lanka's resurgence in ODIs. Let us go back to Benson and Hedges trophy, and Sri Lanka was trying to experiment this aggressive opening pair and trying to do something new in ODI cricket. Just before the start of the tournament, Sanath Jayasuriya has been promoted from lower order as an opener. Just while this tournament is going on, Romesh Kaluwitharana has been promoted as an opener as well. Someone getting promoted before the tournament and someone getting promoted middle of the tournament is two different things. Because back then, when they have tried different combinations, they tried Chandika Hathurusingha, they tried Roshan Mahanama, things didn't work out. So as a last resort, they come to Romesh Kaluwitharana. So the pressure on Kalu is so much. It's little dynamite. He's small in the size, but extremely big in terms of what he has accomplished. He played 3 important innings in that series. The first one against Australia in Melbourne. Melbourne can be intimidating to any visiting team because that's huge and full of hostile crowd, and they will 100% back Australia. And back then Sri Lanka had a very little amount of people in Australia who could come to support the team. And Sri Lankan team was by and large semi-professional at that time. He played a remarkable innings, 77 out of 75 against Australia. And the next match or the next important innings is even bigger in magnitude. Sri Lanka goes to Wacker. The good old days Wacker Stadium is known for its bounce. And we are playing against West Indies. West Indies had Cotley, Ambrose and Walsh. They will be licking their lips because Wacker has so much bounce and pace, and it's a heaven for a fast bowler, and especially for a West Indies fast bowler, it's more than heaven. And Little Kalu didn't give anything to the West Indies. He scores 50 out of 54. Almost runnable century. I'm talking about 1995. This is even before 1996. Runnable centuries are gold in ODI cricket. And then Sri Lanka comes back to Melbourne. This is another crucial innings because by then Australia has qualified for the final. Sri Lanka and West Indies, both of them lying on 6 points each. But Sri Lanka is on the 3rd place because they have the worst net run rate. Sri Lanka literally need to win this match if they are to think about going to the final. And Little Kalu again played a wonderful innings in a chase in Melbourne, because those days chasing in Melbourne is really, really hard and intimidating and very tough. He scores 74 out of 68 balls. That's more than 100 strike rate. How can you even believe somebody from here, a low order batter, merely a wicket keeper, but all of a sudden promoted there, and he is delivering to the team? And mind you, this is even before Sanath Jayasuriya started firing. By and large, the world doesn't know that Sanath Jayasuriya can be devastating. Kalu is setting the tone. He's giving confidence to Sanath Jayasuriya, not only to Sanath Jayasuriya, to the entire team. Yes, we can take on any bowling. We can hammer anyone. We can score runs. We can score quickly. This is unbelievable. And just one important thing while I was watching these highlights, because I was just wanted to soak in to get some points out of it. Tony Greek was saying how wonderful it's going to be next year when Sri Lanka plays against Australia. 14 to 15,000 fans will turn up in Colombo and cheer it. Tony, little did we know, little did you know, little did we all know, it's not gonna happen. But that's wonderful. It was a great, great series for Kaluwitharana. 3 half centuries, 3 important half centuries, match defining ones. And he literally set the tones, and he gives the confidence to the captain and coach and selectors and management and everything. What you are trying to experiment is going to be true. Because if he failed in that moment, Sri Lanka would have gone back to this conservative approach. Perhaps they had Sanath Jayasuriya on one end, they experiment with somebody else there, or they would have taken down Sanath Jayasuriya also behind, and they would have gone with a traditional, conventional approach. Who knows, we wouldn't have even won the World Cup, revolutionized ODI, because Kalu at that time was a trailblazer, path breaker, and he literally turned everything in Sri Lanka's favor.
That's how little Kalu became an emotion or an impact that numbers could not quantify. As Indushan correctly mentioned, little Kalu's dominance in the Benson and Hedges series instilled belief in Sri Lanka that impossible was nothing. And it actually made the rest believe that going after the bowling in the first 15 overs can be successful, and when he did that against the best in the business at that time, it probably would have had a spiraling effect within the team. And of course, Sanath Jayasuriya went on to become a different phenomenon altogether, but one could not overlook the contribution of Kalu towards this. And that's why little Kalu in Sri Lankan cricket and world cricket will remain a phenomenon beyond numbers. And of course, you will be right if you look at the numbers and counter-argue that that was not something quite significant. But if you really doubt that, you can hear or read what the best had to say about it. In a recent book published on the history of Test cricket, there's a chapter on wicket-keepers. In that wicket-keepers chapter, one of the best, or in fact the best wicket-keeper batter the world has seen, Adam Gilchrist, has credited Kalu for showing the way for batters who can keep and keepers who can bat. And Adam Gilchrist in that segment credits Kalu for the significant impact he created, and when the best have that to say about little Kalu for the way he approached the batting in ODIs, I don't think not many of us would disagree, and it's obviously an emotion that you would not want to disagree. And that brings us to the end of this segment in the build up towards the World Cup, and we have looked at different aspects on how Sri Lanka became a force to reckon with, and we look forward to your company for the next segment, where we will be focusing on how Sri Lanka became the world champions, the dawn to dominance.